most, but just to give you a heads up, we know that there's some good things going on in Utah, so we want to talk to you about your relocation and stuff as well. But that being said, Jimmy and I are lifelong athletes, both runners, wrestlers. Jimmy kind of went the wrestling route when he got to college. I went the running route when I got to college, and I still compete in ultra marathons and that sort of stuff. But we started doing this podcast, this version in 2019, and we've been all over the board. And you name a topic, we've probably had a guest on. And then around COVID, we started switching gears a little bit and getting into our roots, which is wrestling and running. And since then, we've been trying to have coaches like yourself and programs that are doing great things that maybe aren't getting, the shine that the Power Five or Power Four conferences get. And we're trying to create conversations that we wish we would have heard when we were 17 and 18 and going through the recruiting process. And Jimmy and I are big believers in getting out of your bubble and experiencing the world. And I know a lot of coaches are really trying to build programs around their local talent. But Jimmy and I are also going to be the guys that are encouraging kids from New Jersey to go out to Utah Valley or to go to UNC and Greeley and experience the world. You can always come back to your bubble in New Jersey, but there's a lot of cool programs and people doing a lot of cool things. And if you're into fishing or hiking or being outdoors, there's a lot of cool places that are outside of the Northeast. So we're trying to promote those things and shine a light on programs like Utah Valley and what you got going on there.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Cool. Awesome. All right, y'all. We are back and we are excited. As we told you last week when we talked to Coach Isaac Wood, we were going to be back in the Utah Valley this week, and we are joined by Utah Valley Wrestling head coach Adam Hall. But before we get into the meat and the potatoes of what we got going on and dive into all the good things in Utah Valley, make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, follow the Airey Bros on Instagram, and if you do so feel inclined, leave a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Y'all know we love our coffee over here. If you're getting any value out of anything we're doing over here at Air Bros Radio and want to support, buy us a cup of coffee, click on that link below. Every sip keeps us going strong. And if you're looking for coaching for ultra marathons, couch to 5K, maybe you've got some nutrition goals, maybe you're looking to get back into the gym, holler at your boy, head on over to Black Sheep Endurance. We'll get you started on your journey. And lastly, a little bit of housekeeping. We want to give a big thank you and shout out to our friend Dave Esposito over at the Edge in Hoboken for the new sweet Rudis wrestling gear. So, Dave, thank you very much. And if you want to check out our episode with Dave, that is episode 289. Tonight's guest, we are joined by Coach Adam Hall. He's a heavy hitter, and we are excited to chat with him about his coaching, about his wrestling, everything they've got going on at Utah Valley. A couple of his accomplishments. He's a former associate head coach at NC State. He helped lead the Wolfpack to 5 consecutive ACC championships and also finished in the top 10 in the NWCA coaches poll for 8 consecutive seasons, along with 4 top 10 finishes at the NCAA tournament. Coach Hall is a 2-time NCAA All-American and a 2-time Pac-10 champion at Boise State, ranking second all-time in their career wins for the Broncos with 122 victories. He's a top recruiter. He's been instrumental in building 5 top 5 and 6 consecutive top 20 recruiting classes while with the Wolfpack at NC State. Post-collegiate success, he placed 5th at the U.S. Olympic trials and multi-time U.S. Open place winner. Coach Hall, we're ready to take a dive into Utah Valley Wrestling. It is an honor and a pleasure to have you with us tonight. Welcome to Airey Bros Radio. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we are excited, and we were talking offline about our friend Dave Esposito and how small the world is, and it just keeps getting smaller and smaller. And you mentioned that you lived in Hoboken, so I guess we'll start off this episode with probably the most important question of the evening. I'll get to it, Jim. Coach, is it
I
pork
know
roll or
where you're
Taylor
going.
ham?
I know where you're going. Oh man, my roommate is from North Jersey. So I'm definitely a Taylor Ham guy. I was baptized into that. He said, "Don't worry about pork roll. It's the southern part of the state." I was like, "All right, whatever."
All right. Yeah, we figure get above that bridge and everything turns into Taylor ham. But Jimmy and I are we're some people don't consider Central Jersey to be a thing, but Jimmy and I are proud alumni of Central Jersey and Region 6, and where we come from, it is definitely pork roll.
Yeah, yeah. He first week we were there, he took me to a bakery. It was Roman Flazer. He was a couple time
Oh
All-American.
yeah,
He was yep, just a stud, right? And he took me and he said he just everything bagel, pork. There he said Taylor ham, egg and cheese, SPK. I was like, what's SPK? He's like salt, pepper,
salt,
ketchup.
pepper, ketchup.
So you'll be hearing that pretty frequently. I'm like, all right. Oh man.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's another name that he came across he was a state champion, I think my senior year, Jim, at 103.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah, small world. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Coach, before we get into the episode and everything, the floor is yours. So if anything you'd like to plug or promote anywhere you'd like athletes or recruits to find you and check out more about what you got going on in Utah Valley and Orem, the floor is yours.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. You can find me on social media. My handle on Twitter is at Coach Hallstar. Um, and then I believe it's the same on Instagram. I'd have to check on that. But yeah, I mean, in terms of our fan base, I'll give a shout out to not only our athletic director Jared Sumption and our sports supervisor Clint Berge, but also Cameron Deering is our marketing lead, and he runs our socials for the most part. And he made a point that we are now, I believe, the largest account outside of men's basketball at our school. And the growth has been incredible, not just with the team, but social media. So I want to give a shout out to those guys for believing in the program and really promoting it.
Awesome. We'll put all that stuff in the show notes for you as well. So anyone that is looking, wants to know more about the program, well, they'll know where to find it. Jim, you want to take the icebreaker?
Coach, you are not our first Utah Valley wrestling coach. We had Coach Williamson on episode 138, I believe. Rich, right?
Yes, Coach Williams was on at 138.
Williams, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So we actually saw them wrestle at UNC Greeley when we were living out there, and then we called coach, and he was cool enough to come on the show and educate us about Utah Valley. And Rich actually, when you got the position last year, Rich was like, "You gotta get Adam Hall. You gotta get Adam Hall." But I'm pretty sure everyone was getting you on at that point. I was like, let's wait. And you're doing some epic things now, so it's awesome to see what you're doing. And started off the season with 5,000 fans at a dual meet, which is pretty epic to see too. Just from in a year, not even a year yet, 7 months, I believe.
Yeah, again, I'll point that specific duel to our administration, especially Cameron Deering, just promoting the duel like crazy, and we did as well, our staff, and just making sure that we got everything squared away. But really, I think it like a perfect storm. We were trying to get Oklahoma State right before the high school season started, and it would only work because they were on their way to Oregon State as well. If Oregon State said yes to them for like a Saturday or Sunday duel, like honestly a Sunday duel, because we're gonna wrestle on a Friday night, and it all came together. I'm really grateful for it, and it was literally right before high school season practice. I think practice was officially starting the next Monday, both in Idaho and Utah, and so stars came together, and it was really an awesome night, over 5,000 fans, and we got our butt kicked, but I believe that all 10 of our guys came to wrestle. We're just a little bit behind, and so it was an awesome night, and I'm trying to recreate that at least once a year, where this next year we actually have guaranteed home duels with Stanford and Nebraska. So I'm working things out with Nebraska right now, trying to find the right date that would make sense. Plus our four in conference Big 12 duels. So a lot to look forward this next year, but setting the tone early, first home match with a attendance record was pretty awesome.
So, Rich, I'll let you get to that other icebreaker, but since we're already talking about the attendance, I want to go to the next question. As far as having setting the tone with those 5,000 plus at that duel, you gave credit to the athletic department and everything they put into it. and you kind of mentioned stars align. And what was it like after the next couple duels where there wasn't as many people? Was it hard for the guys to get up for that, or did they already know that, hey, the wrestling community is watching us now, we need to go perform? Was it any different?
Um, Yes and no. I mean, the 2 weeks leading up to it, I think helped a lot. I think it would have been not as good of a product for on our end if we would have been that would have been week one. That was week one for Oklahoma State, and we'd already been 2 weeks in where we'd wrestled Stanford and Cal Bakersfield week one, and then week two we were at Nebraska, and they had a great crowd for their home opener, and it was really good for us to just wrestle really like two, Nebraska being a top 10, top five team at the time, and Stanford, they were top 15 at the time. Just having that high level, just preparing us for Oklahoma State, I think it helped a lot. So I don't really think there was a drop off like the following weeks. It was nice to be able to come back to our small gym and pack it out. And we've gained quite a few fans this year, and I hope to continue building that base.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch the fan base, and like Jimmy said, we lived in Colorado, so we got to see what Troy's doing over at UNC, and it seems like the momentum is behind you, and I think a lot of times as we talk about the Power Four schools getting the shine, but it's also kind of the Midwest and the Northeast, and New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania is kind of where everyone, or maybe even California out in the West. But there's a lot of great wrestling in Idaho. There's a lot of great wrestling in Colorado and Utah, and yeah, as much as you want to get those homegrown athletes, I think you've been on the East Coast long enough where you've got some connections where you can also um, wrangle some of those guys in the South that maybe not getting some looks, and then also some of the guys in the Northeast that again are outdoors people or just looking for a smaller school. But I guess I've heard Utah Valley, is it the largest university in Utah now?
It
It
is,
is.
yeah. Ahead of BYU and the U, and I mean I can touch on that a little bit. We've only been a Division I school for 18 years now, and we've only been a university for the same amount of time. They were the only school that I know that made the jump straight from a junior college to a university, or junior college to Division I. And so it's been, I would say, kind of like an astronomical rise, and credit that a lot to our current president and AD. They were hired in 2018, 2019. Our president, she's Harvard and MIT educated, was working for Microsoft before she got hired as the president here, and she's a little firecracker. She's about 5'2", five maybe, and she is very vocal. She's at as many matches as she can possibly be at. She tries to go to Big 12s every year, and eventually we'll get her to NCAA's. But she's been a big reason why our university is taking off and getting noticed quite a bit. And our athletic director, same thing. He was hired by her, and he's been here a number of years, worked in the athletic administration, was the right person to step in as the new AD, and same kind of thing. He's elevating the profile of the university by hiring the right people and providing the right resources that the programs need to keep jumping levels.
What's the enrollment at?
Right around 45,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a lot bigger than people realize, and we actually have the highest starting salary of any school in the state, and I think it's strictly because a lot of people are coming back for a degree. They may or currently have a job and are coming back for a degree, or maybe coming back for an advanced degree. And a lot of we have the bare bones of a state college, a junior college, where you can get a bachelor's degree in collision repair here, but you can also get an engineering degree. In fact, our engineering buildings being finished, it'll be done this summer. And so the professional schools are definitely building out. We recently had the first cohort for a physician's assistant program, and I believe the program had a 93, 96% passing rate for their certification exam. So in year one, so I know that this school is kind of on like I said, a meteoric rise, and it's just an exciting place to be right now.
So, Coach, one thing we like to talk about, and we usually save it towards the end, but you just brought it up there with some unique majors. What
Mm.
are some of the unique majors? I know you just mentioned auto collision repair. What is the school known for as far as academics? What are a lot of the guys on the team take part of?
Yeah, we business management, business analysis are two of the biggest majors, not only on our team but at the university. Um, we tout a number one ranking in the country of student started businesses from our university. And the joke I heard when I got here was like, if you're not 25 and haven't started a business yet, like you're kind of behind everybody else. And I see it where I'm just hearing about little thing, somebody starting a business and it does well, they sell it off, and just it kind of compounds from that. And the where we lack and say that the base of alums that say like Oklahoma State or some of these programs that are 100 and plus years old, we have a lot of entrepreneurial alums who are doing well. And you combine that with, we have our own Silicon Valley here. It's called Silicon Slopes, and it's about 15 to 20 minutes from the school. And I mean, they're recruiting directly out of our school, jobs, internships. And we actually personally have a mentor program that was started by a guy named Sean Warren, who's very close to our program and currently run by a guy named JD Jepson. And they both collaborated. And we now have at least 30 people in various industries who mentor our guys. And a lot of them are in tech or in real estate or business. And so there's a lot of opportunity in the Valley. And Utah actually has the number one economy in the country right now. And you drive from Salt Lake City, like south down to Orem, and you see it. There's just businesses and companies left and right popping up, and there's space, there's good tax incentives, and again, it's just kind of the I think the best of all worlds in terms of a place and a university that's growing. So business is definitely strong for us. Engineering is growing as well. We have several engineers on our team. We have a few guys who are trying to go to med school. A couple of our guys, including our heavyweight starter Jack Forbes. He is a 4.0, and he's taking his MCATs this coming summer and is planning on going to med school after this next year. And so, there's as you can imagine, like other schools, there's a handful of different majors, but business is very strong at our school.
Yeah, I think it's super important that you mentioned about the connections as far as having those 30 different industries to plug guys into and having some places to do internships with. Where I went to school, good program, but there was no internships and there was no kind of connections afterwards. And my first year out of college, I was kind of just, oh my goodness, what's going on? I don't know what to do. So I think that's awesome that you mentioned that. And as far as you just kind of building the program, did you know going in you were going to have all the support behind you? Was that kind of the decision? Hey, there's something really good going on at Utah Valley. Is that why you made the jump?
I think it was a part of it. Things were mentioned on my interview and when I came in person as well. The mentor program was mentioned, Silicon Slopes and the opportunities, the connections and the profile of the school and the direction it's going. But you don't really like you can imagine, you don't really understand it till you're immersed in it and you're managing different people on the team and also like connecting with different people that are huge parts of the program's success. And again, I talk about like a guy like Sean Warren who started the mentor program and who's somebody who's very close to me and very close to our program. And he's a guy that when I got out here, it was almost like too good to be true. He reached out to me before I even got out here. He's like, "What do you need?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You need I know you're busy. You need like a date night with your wife because I know you got kids. What's the plan when you get out here?" And I asked one of my former teammates, Jason Chamberlain, who's now our RTC coach, and because he knew Sean really well. Sean actually got him a job at his company. He works for Cotivity, and it's a tech company, and he he's like Jason was like, "No, man, that's just how he is. He wants to help the program win and he's willing to do whatever it takes." And he literally had storage units ready for me and my assistant coaches for when we got here, ready to put stuff in, just awesome people out here. And Sean's been a huge like I said, proponent of not only me but our program, and you didn't really feel these things or realize them until you it was a reality. Like you're coming out here, and I turned around 3 days after the NCAA's, and I had trucks packed up ready to drive across the country, and I was out here the week after NCAA's because I knew that there were guys waiting here to get going, and so I got immersed in it pretty quickly, but it has kind of lived up to what everybody's talked about. The nature side. There's beautiful 10,000-foot mountains in our backyard, 20 minutes from the school, and a river with great trout fishing just running right by the school, and so there's a lot to do, and I'm really grateful that I did make that decision. And like you said, a lot of these things, when you put the pieces together, it did weigh into consideration as this makes sense for you professionally, because the reality was I was ready to become a head coach. Like Pat knew that. In fact, I had a few fans that were like, to be honest, we were kind of surprised that you were here for 9 years, and that's a testament to Raleigh, to Pat, to the program over there. And I'll tell you what, it was really hard for my wife to leave because we had a lot of friends there. Her parents moved out from California right before COVID, and they still live there. They love it, and so it's definitely a hard place to leave. And I've definitely passed up some opportunities, but this seemed right at the time.
Coach, Sean, is he a former wrestler in any way, shape, or form, or is he just a supporter of all things Utah Valley?
I think he dabbled in it. He doesn't talk
Okay.
about it much, his son a little bit, but in fact, his son lives with Terrell Bearclough, so their families are really close. They know each other, so.
Okay. And talking about, being in Raleigh for 9 years and being ready to make that jump, one of the things we like to ask all the coaches is, that business mindset, that CEO role. What does your CEO role look like? What do you enjoy doing? What do you pass off? How do you feel about expense reports?
Yeah, you definitely see another side of it. It's like when you make a jump to from an assistant coach to the associate head coach. Like I was fortunate when I was at NC State to be underneath Frank Beasley, who's having success now at George Mason as the head coach there. And I was lucky enough to learn from him for a little bit before he left, and then as eventually taking on that role, you understand just what he was going through, right? And now I understand what Pat's going through. I haven't told him this, and if he listens to the podcast and hears this, like there are days where he was pretty silent and like didn't want to answer some of the questions that I had. I just realized it, and all right, another time, another day, right? Because you're probably going through, you have three or four other things that are more important going through your mind. But part of it is leadership and part of it is management. I like to see more of the leadership side because you can say you manage people, you can say that you manage a team, but the reality is you lead them, and you do that by building relationships. And I'm fortunate enough to have the coaches that I do have here, and building relationships with guys who are here before me. And I think the biggest part for me is just understanding what I need to delegate when I finally had a staff, because my first 2 months out here I was solo, and it was tough. It's like you're looking at who's going to recruit, who's going to go pick up the kid from the airport, who's going to set the itinerary, who's doing all the business, who and meeting with the guys and coaching practice and wrestling with, it was a lot. I don't remember a lot of the first two months, and I would be I need to actually have a shout out to Roger and Gwen Wolstenhume. They're our athletic trainers' parents, and they were the people that I lived with for the first 3 months that I was here, because my family didn't come out till July, and so which I'm glad they didn't, as crazy as that sounds, because those first few months were kind of wild. But I'm really grateful for just what I had here ready to go, because I was again doing it solo, and then when I finally built out a staff, it was just like, okay, what can I delegate so I'm not losing my mind basically. And it's hard because in a new program, in a new role, first time being a head coach. And Timmy, my head assistant coach, he was with me for 8 years at NC State, and well versed in recruiting and in management and in the business side. But the reality is Andrew and Joey hadn't been college coaches before, and so it was a lot for us to be learning a new system ourselves in a new area and trying to manage a lot of things in our life, plus pour into those guys. So I would say it's been a lot of trial by fire year one, but I put a lot of trust into those guys because simply I can't do everything.
What was that process like? You get the job, and like you said, 3 days later you're in the car and you're driving to Utah. What's it like to get into to build out your coaching staff, or what was the mindset of getting West guys from that region to help with recruiting and that sort of stuff? Did that come into play?
Yeah, I knew right away that I needed a connection to Utah, and that was a former teammate of mine, Andrew Hochstrasser. He's a two-time All-American, national finalist at Boise State, and U.S. Open runner-up in freestyle. So he's a stud, and he had a thriving club here in Utah, and I knew that he had had several years of grassroots development and also made a lot of connections in the state. And he's a Tooele native, just over the mountain, and that was a big part of it. And he was finishing out his club work through the month of May, but he would pop in when he could from time to time and would be helping out. And then the next big piece was Timmy. He had actually gotten out of coaching the year before my last year at NC State, and he moved back to Wisconsin to be closer to his wife's family. And so that was a really tough sell because had literally just sold a house in Raleigh, had purchased a house in Wisconsin. He was into a new role, a sales job. And I knew that he wasn't done coaching and he wasn't truly happy with the job that he was in. And so it took a little bit I got him out. He was blown away just mostly by the nature. We were driving along and he would just say, like, "Hey, I'm listening to you. I'm just not looking at you."
Yeah, mountains will
You
do
know?
that to you.
And he was like, "I got to get my son and my wife back out here." And I did, got them back out there. They were sold, and it was just a matter of the logistics of selling a home that they had just bought, and figuring life out here. And then Joey, I'd actually brought out several assistant coaches or potential assistant coaches around the middle weights, and things didn't work out. And Joey was should have been honestly one of the first people that I called because he was a Nevada native, wrestled at Mizzou, so he's from the West, had Midwest roots from being in college, but was on the East Coast wrestling for Lehigh's RTC, and so I think that he brought a lot in terms of connections, and he just had never coached before. And I had actually was looking at a few guys who had current coaching experience, and he met a lot of the things I was looking for. He was still wanting to train and compete. So there was a guy that was going to be able to wrestle with Terrell. Um, and it just all kind of came together. And then I had some side conversations with Jason Chamberlain, and he has a full-time job working for a tech company, and getting him on part-time as an RTC coach was kind of his way of just staying in the game. And he was working with a lot of local high school kids, but the reality was, like, he is a wealth of knowledge, and I wanted him to be able to pour into our program as well.
Coach, you mentioned having some of your assistants there to kind of help bring in recruits and what their net was. What's it like coming in, taking over a program with guys that are already there, that are set in the system? How has that been? How's that transition looked?
Yeah. No, I'm glad that you asked that because in all honesty, it was really hard coming in, probably for them and for me, because they were recruited here by somebody else, and I knew that the program needed a revamping. It wasn't against, anybody who was here. It needed kind of a fresh look and just a new system that was going to be in play. And um like I said, I didn't waste any time. NCAA's got over. I drove out here, um, and met with the team April 1st, and I met them, and there was, some reporters, administration, fans, people close to the program. A bunch of people wanted to come in just to hear it, and I addressed the team in workout clothes because as soon as I was done, I was like, let's get going, because they'd only had one national qualifier, and um, there were other guys that their season had been done for a few weeks. So they're looking at me to what's the new direction? It's let's get to work. And so I challenged them in the beginning. I asked the group, I said, "Do any of you know what a Wolverine actually is?" They all kind of looked around and nobody answered. And I said, "It's the meanest, angriest 40-pound animal in the woods." And I said, "We are going to embody that. That is what our program is going to be." Because I asked them, and I have a lot of respect for Doug Schwab in Northern Iowa, and they're having an unbelievable year. And I said, "You guys, they're in the conference. Like, what do you think when you have to wrestle a team like Northern Iowa?" And guys were kind of looking around I'm like, it's not a rhetorical question. They're like, they wrestle really hard. They come at you. They're not afraid. And I'm like, right. And that's exactly what we're gonna be. And so trying to, they look at you and they're just like, man, this guy's crazy, right? And within the first couple days, I had a couple guys walk into my office and were like, "Coach, you're exactly what this program needs. I just don't have it in my heart to do this." And I respected the fact that they walked in and talked to me about it and had things that they were planning on doing down the road and had a plan. And um, I think in the beginning we had some guys that were, you could tell. One guy was Case Mauger, our 133-pound starter. He just looked like he was just white, just a sheet of white. And I just, "Hey, you there?" And come to find out, like his dad would tell me, like, yeah, he had a foot half in the door and half out, and it took him about a month to be convinced that, like, yeah, you were gonna be great for him. And you could see it was like within a month or two, life come back to him, and he's a very, very quiet person. And I remember the first day that he spoke more than a couple sentences. I'd asked the team, if we're going to go to U23s, number one, you're going to be at the right weight class and we're going to train for it. So if you don't want to do those two things, like, let me know, because I'm not wasting money on guys that are just wanting a free trip. And so after the practice, he came up to me. He's like, "Coach, I'm going to go 61 kilos and I'm going to be ready." And I was like, I just started laughing. I was like, "This is the first like two sentences you've said to me since I've been here. We've been here about 6 weeks." And he started laughing, but you could see like the life come back into him. And yeah, so it just took time. And I told the guys there were a few things that I was going to do right away. And number one, I was going to meet with every guy and just trying to understand their values, their expectations, and help them understand mine. Because if their expectations were here and mine were here, then I'm going to help them understand how to get there and why they need to be there. Because I think it, like, when you embrace this situation of vulnerability, I think it's the coach's job to take the first step and understand, like, "Hey, I'm going to help you." Because otherwise, like, they don't know. It's like you don't know what you don't know, right? I'm like, how many of you have a roadmap to being an All-American or a national champion? None of you, and that's okay. But I do, and I'm going to help you understand that. And those expectations are going to be really high. And each week that we've gone through this first season, I've reminded the guys, like, the expectations will never drop, right? Because if I would have been settling for mediocrity in year one and just like, "Oh, it's year one," like everybody expects it not to go great or whatever, as you're trying to change the culture. Like, no, I had high expectations for the guys. And I think the core, that group of guys that remain, and the core guys that are in our lineup that were from the previous staff, they really embraced that struggle. They've embraced the schedule that we had, because it wasn't easy. And I told our guys, like, I know it's not easy, right? But we're squeezing every ounce, every drop out of you in year one, so that you have a lot of momentum going into year two.
So, Coach, you mentioned those expectations. I want to get into that. But before we get into that, I just want to thank you for painting that picture. I'm going to show my age a little bit, but you made me think of Gordon Bombay in the Mighty Ducks when he took the
Yeah.
team over and he kind of just like let everyone know what was up. I definitely had that picture of you just like letting everyone know what was up, and the kids not really knowing what they were getting into. But you mentioned those expectations, and you also mentioned the schedule, and we know you guys have been through the ringer. So what was kind of your thought coming into the year, and where are you guys now going into the postseason?
Yeah, the schedule was based out in mind with Terrell. I had told him, "I'm going to build a schedule around you and what your needs are." And I knew right away how good he was and his potential, and I've been telling him throughout the year, I wholeheartedly believe you can win a national title. I know that you can. And he does too. And he obviously has a lot of respect for his previous teammate, but I told him is Mitchell Messenbrink has had one hell of a year too, just running through people. I said there's one person in the country that knows how to wrestle him and has, and it's you. And you're not afraid. You're not afraid to beat whoever's in front of you. And so from that point, it was like all these other guys had to play catch up. And it's like if you're not hopping on a train that's picking up steam, you're gonna get left behind. And again, the guys have really embraced it. And I haven't come in a perspective to try to just be a dictator. It's like I set the expectations high, but I'm grateful for the staff that I've been surrounded by that we pour a lot of time into our guys. We spend a lot of time outside of the wrestling room and in at people's houses playing games, serving others, and so I think just building that culture and that camaraderie has really helped everything. But the reality is we're setting our sights on winning a national title, and when you cater to the best people in your program, you call the rest to be there because you never want to be here and you're losing all these people at the top because you're not serving them. And it was Terrell, it was a Hayden Drury, and so um I think those guys have been tested completely because at the end of the year, nothing should surprise them, right? Terrell took a tough loss in Vegas and had to learn from that. He's like, Coach, I'm gonna be honest, I was focused on the finals and wrestling Peyton Hall there, and I just wasn't focused. I was like, yeah, I could tell. And to be honest, like we needed this a little bit, and because we wouldn't want this to happen at the Big 12 tournament or the national tournament where you're not prepared for each match, and it just helped him understand that the humility of our sport, and it was even after he beat Peyton Hall and he's kind of gone through this stretch of people. I said, Terrell, we haven't accomplished our goal yet. Like we're still hunting people down because he's felt some pressure, some anxiety. I'm like, for what? You're not a returning national champ, right? This is your first year in the lineup. You're still hunting people down. Like even the guys you beat, you're still hunting them down. Like Peyton Hall's an All-American, right? Like we're still Cameron Amin's an All-American. Like we're still it's your first year, And so I try to keep him in the right frame of mind that he's still on the hunt and you've seen some of these other guys grow into it. Like you go down our lineup and 125 was a junior college transfer, first time in Division One. 33 and 41 are our senior leadership stalwarts. They were here before me. 49 is a true freshman. 57 is a true freshman. 65, first time starting, new program. 74, first time starting, freshman. 84, first time starting, sophomore. 97, first time starting, freshman. Heavyweight, first time at heavyweight, first time starting, sophomore. So you go up and down our lineup, and I've really called these guys to a high level. And I have to remind myself that some of our guys are not only a first year starter, but they're a freshman. And so it's hard because I asked our staff, I was like, am I being too hard on these guys? And Timmy was like, maybe a little bit. And I was like, it could have been a lot worse we didn't hold our guys accountable, if we didn't talk to them about having loftier goals than what they were probably thinking. Because at the end of the day, we won a number of the dogfight duels with Cal Baptist and Oregon State and we were one match away from beating NC State, Mizzou, South Dakota State, Northern Colorado, and then we could have been 11 and whatever, 11 and 5 on the year if we win one match throughout that. And so that's the expectation that I had, was like we were so close, right? But I also have to take into consideration that this team was 2 and 7 last year, and we finished the year 7 and 9. Well, we finished the regular season 7 and 9. So yeah, that's kind of my thought process in building out the schedule and really year one.
Coach, you mentioned the guys in the lineup. What's the breakdown in terms of homegrown guys from Utah and guys from the West? Is there anyone outside of the West that's on the roster or on the starting lineup?
Yeah, well, I'll start with the group that I brought in. In about 2 months, I had 16 guys committed. And it was just like rolling through it. And the first guy I actually had visit and was committed was a connection. out of Chicago, and it was um, Izzy Styles Club. Izzy reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, man," because I knew him growing up. I watched him wrestle at when he transferred from Iowa to North Idaho College. That was the school that I grew up watching, and he was a stud. And he's built himself a heck of a club. And he reached out. He's like, "Hey, Hall, I got a guy for you." He's got a gruffy voice, and you're like, all right. He's like, he's a team captain in the room. He works his butt off, and for a program that needs guys that are going to just put their head down and work and do really well in school. It was great get Pat Mullen out here, and um, as I built it out, and then got the staff here, and just trying to hone in on building relationships in the state. And it's no secret a lot of the best kids were leaving. I mean, you look around the country, and Terrell, Lucas Cochran, um, Owen Pence he was at Nebraska for a minute, was at North Dakota State, Brock Hardy, um, why am I blanking on? He was just at Ohio State, was a national qualifier for them. 157, 165, it'll come to me. But there was a handful of guys that were leaving the state. So building relationships were a big deal. And I'd competed against Kyler in high school, college, and then post college. And he has, one of the biggest clubs in the state, and they're really successful. And he has a really good junior and senior class, and he's gonna have some good guys coming up. And so building those relationships were really important. And you look at our lineup again, it's 125s from Utah, 33s from Idaho, 41s from Washington, 49s from Washington, 57s from Idaho, 65s from Utah, 174s from California, 184s from Nevada, 197s from Utah, and 285s from Colorado. So you look at like the Western states, and we're just about represented by all of them. That's a goal of mine. We don't have a guy from Montana yet, right? And that's a state where I know there's some tough, mean dudes that are coming out of that state, and they just need an opportunity, right? And um, I think we're garnering a lot of attention not only in the West but the Midwest. Um, the strip matters out east are trying to get me out for a camp during the summer, and I was set to go out there last summer, and I told Jody, I was like, I can't right now. There's a lot going on, and just can't do it. But I'm trying to get back out east because I have a lot of connections and roots in Ohio and Pennsylvania and New York. And just like you said, you never know when you go and visit a place and you're just like, this is it. Because that honestly was me. I was at Boise State. I had just finished, and I got connected with Columbia. Somebody was like, "Ah, just go out and go check it out. It's a free visit." And I went out there and came back, and I told all my friends, I was like, "I don't know, I really like it. And it's a great opportunity. It's an on-staff coaching position." And I took that job, was there for 4 years, got my master's there, and NC State called, and I literally, my now wife, we had been dating for like 2 months, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna go check it out. Just gonna go look." I came back, and I'm like, I'm gonna take this job, and we're gonna figure it out. And luckily, at the time was a school teacher, and it was just like, I'm gonna find a job down there. But you look at the opportunities that I've had, and it was purely on, let me just check this out. Let me just see. I wasn't afraid to get outside of my comfort zone, being from a small town in Idaho and staying in state to go to school there. But it's been a true blessing because now I have connections all over, literally all over the country. And I think the priority, going back to your question, and I'll leave you with this, is the priority is keeping a lot of the best kids in state, and a lot of the best kids in the West region, giving them an opportunity to be closer to home. And we really are doing that. We've got 5 guys, incoming freshmen, um, signed, committed in our 2025 class, and um, 3 of them are from Utah. One of them is currently in Utah, but originally from North Carolina, and he moved out here for his senior year. And then one of them just committed to us. He's from Nevada. And then we have a junior college transfer coming back off of mission who's from Utah and wrestled at Western Wyoming. So yeah, just building that the base in Utah is important, because at the end of the day, I think the fans want to be able to come and watch people that they know.
Yeah, and talking about the brand recognition, the brand awareness, it's definitely noticeable with the new singlets, the new, the script font that you have on your sweatshirt there. Is that, it's super sharp. I really like it, and all the singlets that you guys have busted out. Was that all stuff that was in the works before you got there, or is that stuff that you kind of reinvigorated and brought in and have these concepts to kind of raise the brand awareness?
Uh, Part of the chaos that happened in the beginning was June hit and our AD's like, "Hey, we're gonna go Nike, just so you know," because we were Adidas. And we had a meeting with the rest of the head coaches, and there was only one head coach on campus that didn't want to switch to Nike because he had an awesome getup of Adidas gear and had everything set. And to be honest, like it was pretty tough timing because the fall sports are going in July and August. And we signed a contract in July, and so some of the fall sports started out the year wearing Adidas and part needed part Nike, part Adidas. So we luckily, it was a scramble in the beginning, and fortunately we had a good Nike rep, and our administration was very supportive and like getting us going, and this Utah Valley script was brand new. And one thing about this sweatshirt is we love putting the Big 12 logo all over everything because we get people all the time. They're like, "You guys aren't in the Big 12. Like UVU is not in the Big 12." Like we had I went and supported a track meet at BYU about a month ago. We took some guys, and I had a BYU athlete come up to us like visibly distraught, like, "What is this, a joke? Is this a joke? Like, are you making fun of us?" And I said, "No, we are actually in the Big 12. And to be honest, we were the first Big 12 team in Utah." So, but it's been exciting because I think Nike it's a sexy brand. Out of 30 recruits, I bet 28 of them will say, "Yeah, I want Nike." And so it's been a good brand rebranding for us. And we got to design the singlets. In fact, our cool white one that we wore for Oklahoma State, Andrew designed that. He just kind of free-handed a singlet. I thought this would be sweet. Sure enough, it turned out great. So it's been awesome being able to promote like just a new rebranding of the program. It was awesome timing.
You mentioned going to the track meet. Was you say it was over at BYU?
Yeah.
Are you friendly with Coach Hall?
So I've gotten to know as many coaches as I possibly can, and we made it a point to try to go support all the teams on campus. We've been to men's basketball, been to women's basketball, been to volleyball, been to soccer, and it was hard getting to a track meet because they're in indoor right now, and there's only been a handful that they're going to be able to go to, and we're in season right now, and so we just found some time. And to be honest, I think people were shocked that we showed up. It was like us and UVU and BYU and a couple other schools, and they were just starting like the throwing events, and they were pumped that we were there. And it's cool because I think at the end of the day, if you're wanting to build a base not only with your fans but with your school and with other athletes, you do it with the little things, right? And so I think it was pretty cool to be over there to be able to go over there and support them.
They bring you back to your high school days running the 1600-meter outdoor track?
Oh, you dug up some info. Gosh, man. Yeah, the 1600 I tell people about my senior year and racing at the state meet and watching my college coaches because the track at Boise State at the time was in the stadium. It's not anymore, but they held the state track meet there, and my future college coaches got to watch the 4.5 minutes of pain that I went through to run the 1600 meters at the state meet. Never forget that. I actually think I can't remember a lot of matches that were more painful than the state mile.
Coach, I say the same things because we grew up in a running house and running was kind of like king, and then wrestling was what you kind of did in winter. But since they didn't care as much about wrestling, I went the wrestling route. But I always used to say, I'd rather have someone trying to kill me on a wrestle mat than have to push myself on a cross country course.
Absolutely. I don't know what it is. You can find ways of like finding a break or like managing, just staying in your stance, but like running there for me at least, because it didn't come easy. Like I could be good at it, but it didn't come easy, and it was very difficult on my body, and I had to put myself through a lot of 400 repeats in pain. And sorry, this is my little buddy. Say hi,
What's
bud.
up?
You gotta go upstairs, kid. Go upstairs. Um, and I just looked at it like one, I was a three sport athlete in high school, and I think it saved my body a lot in high school because I was going to wrestling quite a bit, but I also, I had friends on the track team. I grew up playing soccer too, so a lot of my best friends were soccer players, and so played that through all through high school. I think it's a big reason why today I actually encourage guys if they can play another sport strictly because it's better, I think, for your body to just have a break, a little bit of a break, and also just more of a mental break than anything. But yeah, I think my mental toughness and physical toughness were definitely uh, grown through the things that I did, especially track.
I appreciate you sharing that because I was going to ask you to touch on the like multi-sport athletes and the importance of that because I feel like as a wrestling coach, I've had tough time getting, and a track coach, I've had a tough time getting the football coaches to buy into letting their football players go out for wrestling and make them better football players. But then also, there's so many different events in track and field where football players can excel from the shot put to the discus to jumping and hurdling and so many different things. So I appreciate you sharing that. That I think sometimes that specialization can wear people out. And Jimmy and I have both seen plenty of, and I'm sure you have seen plenty of people that get burnt out from just grinding, doing one thing over and over, year after year, month after month. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'll say that because I think even today's day and age with specialization, I think there's a route to success with having other sports. And I think it comes from being able to manage things. Like I was playing soccer and I'd go to practice for wrestling at times. And yeah, I know I get it. I'm crazy. But at the end of the day, like I would go straight from track practice over and work technique for wrestling. Like there's things to keep yourself hungry for sure.
Well, coach, you're talking to two guys who are that same kind of crazy because there's plenty of times where I would go from a track meet and then get in my car and drive to the wrestling club. So,
Yeah, no, and look, it's not easy, right? But again, it's like choosing this life as a coach. It's not 9 to 5, and but we choose this life. It's a love hate, right? Because you are managing a lot of things, having a family now, and trying to have somewhat of a life. I took my kid today to the aquatic center, and we first time we've been swimming in months. It's cold out here in Utah right now. So just trying to manage all those things is, and I think for kids in general, it's like you get this one time in your life and you want to put a lot into it, but at the end of the day, it you have to, I think, have something outside of wrestling because it does end. It does end at whether it's high school, college, after college, whatever that looks like. Even for the guys that are post college, have to be presented with the question of what's next, right? So
Coach, I appreciate you saying that because I was someone who just thought wrestling was going to somehow magically pay the bills. And it took me a while to kind of figure out how to actually be a human and have other things in my life because I was so one-dimensional. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Rich, I don't know about you. I could talk to Coach Hall all day, but if you don't have anything else, I say we get into the final four.
I do have one. I was just curious, hearing him talk and making the connections. And I'm curious, Coach, Jimmy, like I said earlier, Jimmy and I are big about getting out of your bubble and experiencing the world. And you grew up, I believe, like 30 minutes from the Canadian border, and then you stayed in state to go to college. And then you went to Hoboken, New Jersey to live and go to Columbia. What was that like? And I know you said you took the trip and were like, I think I'm going to do it. I mean, what was the motivation behind that for you other than getting a amazing education and getting into coaching? But I mean, that's seems kind of they make movies about the small town kid that goes up to the big city.
yeah, no, it's interesting that you asked that because I'll remember it like it was yesterday. I went on the trip to New York, came back, and I just talked with my friends, and they're just like, "Look, man, we don't want you to go, but you have to go." It's kind of one of those. just kind of surreal because I was driving on the freeway and I was off staring off into the sunset, driving to a friend's house outside of Boise, and I called Carl Fraunhofer and I was like, well, he called me when I was driving, sorry, and he's like, man, the job's yours if you want it. And right on the spot, I was like, yeah, I'm in. And he's like, awesome. Well, I'll talk through details tomorrow and blah blah blah. And hung up the phone and it was pretty quick. And I was just like, what the heck did I just do? But it was like, hey, if you're gonna be all in, you're all in. That's kind of how I am. I'm either all in or I'm all out. And um made the jump out there and I almost drowned like the first few months because I was still competing on staff. So you had the recruiting, you had everything going on, trying to figure out a new place. We had a guy who had taken a year out of school because if you're going to redshirt in an Ivy, you have to leave school for a year. And I needed to work out with him a couple days a week, and then I was working out with the team, right? And so I was just it was a lot the first few months, and finally when I got my feet underneath me and knew the three different ways for me to get from Hoboken to into the city up to Columbia and what was the fastest, and you start all of a sudden you have that like chip on your shoulder. You're like, I got this, and you're humming along with everybody, and just I think wherever you go, the more you can immerse yourself in the culture and the faster you can be. It's just the same thing like they say with travel overseas. The sooner you can get on a time zone and get acclimated, the better you're going to be and feel. I absolutely think it's the same thing. And so if there's anybody out there that I'd encourage to just at least go see things, it's wrestlers because we're just like used to this room and this close community and you never know when it's out there. Thank you. Um, sorry, my laptop's running low,
Oh,
so I'm gonna have to plug it in. But to finish your to finish your thought, it's really just go see what's out there. And like you said, I come from a town of like 5,000, 6,000 people. And there's a lot of people that if you don't get out, you never get out. And it's okay because like you have family there, you have friends, but I never wanted to go back to my hometown and hear the woulda, coulda, shouldas, and granted I had a lot of great opportunities. My dad's a veterinarian, owned his own practice. My mom was a teacher at the high school, and I was afforded a lot of opportunities to get out. And so I try to encourage people if they have the opportunity, like you said, you can always go back home. But if you never get out, you may never get out, right? And so um, definitely got out of my comfort zone in New York, and same kind of thing in North Carolina. I'd only heard of like the Tobacco Road and just different things that basketball and this, and I never really knew North Carolina because it wasn't just a state that I was attracted to or growing up, never really knew much about, and um, going down there and just seeing how beautiful it was and the potential was the same thing as coming to Utah. Is just you look in your path and just see the different decisions that you have and the choices that you make, and you want to make the ones that are the most educated for where you're at in your professional career. And I think I've done pretty well doing that. And again, I just encourage people to just get out. And we've been really fortunate to host the U16 national duels out here. We started hosting them this past summer, and we have them for the next 3 summers. And this last summer we had Team PA, we had Oklahoma, we had California, Washington, Indiana. We had a number of these teams come out and want to use our room and facilities and just see everything. And the Pennsylvania director was videoing everything, showing it off like this place is beautiful. Like you guys need to come see this. And it's huge. It's great PR, but it's great for people out there just to see what's out there. And why not? Why not go see it?
absolutely. I appreciate that. Do you have a favorite New York slice?
Ooh, there's one up by Columbia called Coronets, and the slice is about this big.
Hmm.
You only need one. And it's good sloppy pizza. I've had some good pizza. There's a famous place down, I want to say in like Soho or something like that that does like they're like $1 or like $2 slices. And it's a really, really good slice. So I've had my fair share. Don't worry. I've also been out to Brooklyn. I believe it's in Brooklyn. D. Farah, like
Hmm.
has he died? I think he died.
Yes. I believe so. Yeah.
I was lucky enough to see Dom when he was still slinging pies and slopping it with olive oil and fresh basil. Like those are memories like you'll take with you forever. And I'm actually coming back up to New York for a friend's birthday in May, and I think Theo, hey, can you go upstairs for Dad, please? Yeah, sorry, you're making a lot of noise. Um, and I miss the area a lot just for convenience and for the opportunity more than anything. And you bet that I'm gonna go find a slice when I'm up there for a few days.
They get you on some biscuits and sweet tea in North Carolina.
Yeah, so sweet tea, absolutely. I actually have to water it down with a little, I know that's probably blasphemous, but with a little regular tea because when they talk sweet, there's like sweet tea and then there's like sweet tea with like an accent. You
Yep.
know what I mean? And some of the best Southern cooking I've had is in that Raleigh area. And I've been various places around the South, and I gotta try Mississippi, Alabama area, but Raleigh Durham is a wonderful place not only for food for a foodie, but just the culture.
Yeah, it's a good spot.
Final four, Rich.
Let's do it.
All right, Coach. First question I have for you: Are you a coffee drinker?
Yes.
How do you brew your coffee, and how do you take it?
I'm kind of all over the place. So I brew it pretty normally. We have a coffee pot in our office that we usually get hot, and I actually have a Nespresso machine. Those things are awesome because you just get different variety. I'll drink it black, but I mean, I'll take it with cream too, a little bit of cream. I kind of go around the board. I'll have a latte. I'll have a cortado. I like trying things. Even if for once, because again, you never know until you try it and you like it or you don't like it. But generally just black or with a little bit of cream.
You doing half and half or like full fat heavy cream?
Doesn't matter. I
Doesn't
mean,
matter.
really, whole milk, half and half cream.
All right. Coach, do you have any daily practices or rituals you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of Adam Hall?
Yeah. And my staff, my friends, my wife, they probably all know this. Like I'm a busybody. And so I'm often, even if it's like I'm knocking out emails or whatever, I'll go just sit on the bike and spin, or walk on a treadmill or I try to lift at least 3 days a week, 4 days a week. And so my ritual is just getting up early and getting it in. And oftentimes the tough days are I lift and I come in and Terrell wants to go with me and I'm like, "Phew." I remind these guys I'm turning 37 this week and I'm already a workout ahead of them. And but I'd say ritual wise, like I try to take care of my body. Like I have a bone broth smoothie every morning. I try to drink some chicken bone broth in the morning, and I started doing recently like a lemon honey salt water mix in the morning where I sip on it. It's usually pretty good for digestion or just getting you going. But there's a few things that right away that I try to start my day off with and tackle the day from.
Gotcha.
Coach, I love hearing that you still get at it and you have a hard time not moving. Rich and I have those same issues too, so we can appreciate that.
And I was gonna say, call me when you're 49, coach.
Hey, you know what? I people told me, "Oh, wait till you're 35." And the realists, they're like at 40, I really felt it at 40. 40 and between 40 and 50, there's a lot of decline. And so I'm looking forward to the future and I try to learn from people and actually like really take it to heart what people say. And I see now what my former coach, Kirk White, who was an NCAA champion, assistant coach at Boise State, just super active guy. And he was in his 30s when I was in my 20s, and I used to make fun of him all the time because he'd only go with me one day a week, and now I get it. I really get it. And I look at him now where he's in his 40s and he's had a knee replaced twice. Just had his shoulder replaced, probably needs a couple other things replaced. I'm like, that is absolutely going to be me. And the last doctor that I had in Raleigh, the team doc, when I said I'm trying to make it to 50 before I have a knee replacement, he just laughed at me. He said, "Good luck, man." Because he knew how bad like my body's beat up and whatever. But the reality is like I motion is lotion. I feel like if you don't stop moving, you're gonna be fine, like to an extent. And when you do stop moving, it's like a rusty chain, as Timmy McCall calls it. It's like a rusty chain on a bike, man. If you don't keep it moving, it'll rust up, and I'm grateful for my body holding up because half the times I wrestle with guys and I get in positions, I look at it and I'm like, ooh, is this gonna snap today? Is this my time? Is this really my time? And really, as you talk about it, like being in your 40s, it really is about maintenance and about really taking care of yourself and prioritizing things. And I think it feeds off onto the guys too, because when they see me doing all the right modalities for recovery, when they see me eating right, I think it goes a long way with them too.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I'll give you this piece of advice that I got from coaching with Terrell Delagnev a couple summers ago. We were at the U20 World Championships coaching a couple guys who were roommates, and he said, now that I'm in my 30s, mid 30s, I look at it like at 20, I didn't care about 35, but at 35, I really care about 50. And I was like, dang, man, that's some knowledge right there. That is powerful.
I wish I would have heard that at 35.
Oh, shoot.
That is how I am living, and my whole fitness regimen these days is maintenance. So power to you, getting at it on the mats every day and lifting 3 days a week. Coach, what are you listening to right now? Music, podcasts, audiobooks? Are you reading anything?
Yes. Listening to a book called Never Split the Difference. It's on negotiation, and they're learning some really cool things about uh, um, FBI negotiators and kind of the psychology behind talking somebody off a cliff or talking somebody down who's angry or what that looks like in terms of meeting people. And they call it tactical empathy. Um, And so just trying to understand that and grow as a leader in that way, because you're going to have a lot of conversations, you're going to have a lot of business, things to manage and understand. And when you don't have a background in that or have a lot of experience in it, I think it helps. I just bought the book Outlive, and I really want to read it by Peter Attia, Dr. Peter Attia, and I think he's onto some things in terms of longevity. And so I look forward to diving into that. In terms of to music, this is a shout out to Terrell. He has like an island vibe, and one day he comes in, he just says, "Coach, sticky fingers," and I was like, "What?" And so I had to look it up, and anytime I could see him getting like tense or he's too into it, whatever, before a match, but I'll just be like, "Hey man, sticky fingers." He's like, "Yeah, he has to remember just the fun things in life too."
We get down with sticky fingers, don't we, Jim?
Yes, we do.
Coach, that's what we got for you. It's a lighthearted one. We know you're a foodie, so maybe it's in the realm of food, but do you have a guilty pleasure?
I have quite a few. As healthy as people think I am, like ice cream is I right now I have four different kinds of ice cream in my freezer, one of which I made with my son, a banana ice cream, so I'm pretty proud about that. But I'd say sweets are pretty bad on me. But if in terms of a savory, definitely a burger. I'll definitely go for a good burger.
All right. Well, when you're down in Tulsa for Big 12s, you got to get yourself an Oklahoma onion burger.
Oklahoma onion burger.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can I
It's
get
a
it? What if I just ask for it? People know what that is.
Yeah, it's a Oklahoma delicacy. It's something that originated during the like Great Depression era.
Okay.
And what they did was it's a smash burger with fried onions, but it originated in Oklahoma. And what they were doing is they were using more onions than beef patty because of the depression, and they wanted to
Oh yeah.
give the effect that people were getting full by eating a burger. So, I don't. I lived in Oklahoma City for a handful of years. I couldn't tell you a specific place in Tulsa to get one, but I do know some good ones in Oklahoma City. So if you're flying in and out of Oklahoma City, I can maybe point something out for you. But if you're in Tulsa, they'll know what you're talking about when you bring it up.
Okay. I'm glad you explained it because I don't know if you know what a Rocky Mountain oyster is.
Yes, sir, I do.
Yeah, so I think no understanding like having context is important. I'm
Yeah.
not saying I'm not afraid of trying things, but I'm glad you kind of described it for me.
Well, it's funny. You mentioned the Rocky Mountain oysters because when I was, it was in sixth grade, we took a trip to Colorado to go to ski in Copper Mountain in Vail, and my uncle almost got me to eat Rocky Mountain oysters, but then my dad clued me into what they were before I ate them. So,
Oh, I love that because I've witnessed it. My every year my parents hosted the end of the year party for wrestling at our high school. My dad's a veterinarian, so he would just go, castrate a few cows and save them and bring them on over and wouldn't tell anybody and then tell everybody afterwards. Kind of messed up, but it's like, see, it's not that bad. Like, I don't know.
yeah, it's not like you're tricking someone eating into a venison burger.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah. Huh.
Coach, thank you so much for your time tonight. Your energy is contagious. I'm stoked. Like I said, we've been fans of the program, but now we're even bigger fans and can't wait the Big 12s and NCAAs to see what the guys do and see the growth of the program for the next couple seasons. So thank you so much for your time and really look forward to seeing what you're doing with the team.
Appreciate you guys a lot. I'm grateful.
Coach, it's been an honor and a pleasure to have you on. And like Jimmy said, we wish you the best of luck coming into March in the postseason, and we'll be rooting for the Wolverines.
Appreciate it.
All right, y'all. That's Coach Adam Hall from Utah Valley University, head wrestling coach. Make sure you give a follow on all the socials. Check out those links in the show notes. We will be back tomorrow with Matthew Morris from Colorado University, Colorado State University El Pueblo track and field. So we'll get in belly to belly one night. We're back.